Welcome back, homeschool friends. We are in Unit 4, and we're talking about making decisions, setting goals, and anticipating obstacles that may come this year in our homeschool. In this lesson, I want to talk about specific goal setting. And there's a reason why when I look at objectives or goals for the year, rather than just relying on my curriculum. Part of that is, as a learning specialist, I have plenty of students and I need to be able to track if they're making progress on their goals. Skills in reading, writing, math, spelling, phonics, vocabulary, those skills are harder to evaluate growth than the content areas of social studies and science. I'll talk about those areas in a future video, but today I want to talk about SMART goals specifically as they relate to skills. Now, you don't need a whole lot of goals. You can deal with just 1 to 5 and let that be what you track. The reason I suggest you start with some goals, though, is many of our kids with special needs don't make an entire year's worth of growth in a school year. They are slower, steadier learners, many of them. Some of them are really fast in one area and slower in a different area. That's okay. But one of the things I hear commonly from moms is, I see all these posts of other people, their kids are getting all these accolades, and how do I celebrate those little successes? Well, SMART goals help you do that because you'll know when those little successes have happened. So I want to share my screen with you here, and I want to remind you that goals are set based on the learning profile and really skills, reading, writing, math, spelling, phonics. You can even break them down into like different math areas, but they're based on the learning profile. That's where you start. One of the things that we use in the special ed world is something called the SMART goal. It's a formula for writing a goal so that you can actually see when that specific task has been mastered or attained. A SMART goal is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, meaning you can reach it, it's realistic and actually pertains to what you want to work on, and it's time bound. Time bound may not seem like an important thing to put in a goal. However, if we want to celebrate those successes, we need to look back and see if that goal has been reached. Many IEPs in schools are written, they're all written for one school year or for 1 year from the date that they're written. Sometimes that's all that they're looked at and evaluated. If we look at goals more frequently, we will know if they've been attained. We can either adjust the goal to the next level or to the next mastery standard, or if it's not being reached and we're not making progress on that goal, then we can adjust what we do in learning activities to try to make it more effective. That's what SMART goals can do for us. So I want to walk through, how do you actually write a SMART goal? And here's some examples of some SMART goals and not SMART goals. So first of all, let's talk through these, and then I will give you some examples and show you how I write SMART goals for my homeschool. All right, so the first one is, my child will follow all directions. That sounds like a great goal. I want my kid to follow directions. I want them to be able to hear or read a task, go and do it. The problem with this goal is, first of all, it doesn't specify. It's not specific enough. It doesn't tell if this is oral directions or written directions. It's also not attainable. Nobody, even adults, can follow all directions. It's an all or nothing statement that has no realistic measure to reach. The other thing is it's not time bound. Is this going to be on Mondays? Is it going to be in 3 months? Am I going to look at this in 6 months? When am I going to look back at this goal to see if it's been reached? All right, a smart version of this goal would be, my child will do something, will respond. I could even say within 1 minute. Oh, I did. Look at that. Will respond within 1 minute to 2-step oral directions. Now you might start with just 1 step at a time. Look back in a week or two. See, is your child responding in a minute to a 1-step direction? If they are, then you adjust your goal and say, okay, I want them to respond faster. I want them to respond in 30 seconds. Or you keep the minute and say, okay, let's up it to 2 steps. I'm going to give them 2 little tasks to do. And I want them to get up and move toward doing it in a minute. If you've got a kid that does that, they start out, but they get distracted. And let's say you've told them, go get your backpack and put your shoes on. And they start to grab their shoes, but they get distracted. And then they're there at the door ready to go out and they don't have either one. Then you need to revise this goal. I want them to do those 2 tasks. I don't just want them to respond in a minute. I want them to complete the task or completely follow the direction in 5 minutes. And then I added by the end of December. Okay, if I start school in September, October, November, that gives me 4 months to check and see if my child will actually respond in a minute to 2-step directions. They may accomplish that way faster. Oh my goodness, then we celebrate. That's really good progress. If they haven't made it by the end of December, I should adjust this goal anyway, because I thought, okay, in 4 months, they should be able to respond or at least start moving to follow a direction in 4 months. But if they're not, then maybe I need to adjust that goal so that they can be successful at least, and my criteria is almost always 80% of the time. That means 4 out of 5 times. So if I give a 2-step direction on 5 different days or in 5 different times of the day, are they going to actually get up and start doing that within a minute? Some kids, it's really hard goal to work on, and it may last you the whole year. All right, another goal. No, this is not a SMART goal. My child will learn to love learning. We really want our kids to love to learn. My goal is that my kids will be a lifelong learner. I want them to have the skills that they need to learn anything they want to learn, no matter how young or old they are. Of course, age appropriate. If they're in high school or higher, I want them to be able to research things on the internet. I want them to be able to read articles and books and information that they need. I want them to know where to go. Is this something I would be better off watching a video for? Or do I need to actually read a research, peer review, scholarly article? There's different choices that they make when they learn. But in elementary or high school, typically a SMART goal would look something much more specific, like this. My child will show mastery of the times 6 multiplication facts using a drill worksheet or flashcards with 80% accuracy by the end of October. Okay, so we have what we want them to do. I could make this a lot simpler wording. My child will master the times 6 facts. Good enough. I know what I'm working on. We're working on the times 6 tables. And I specified how I'm going to evaluate them. we're either going to do a drill worksheet or a flashcard. Does that mean that's how I'm going to teach them? No, this is how I want to evaluate if they've got mastery. We could use song videos, we could use games, we could use holy cards that you stick a little pencil in and flip backwards. We could go outside and use little pebbles and make groups of 6 and then count them. We can do all kinds of things for the learning part, but this is my SMART goal on how I'm going to evaluate. I could also leave that off. I could just watch and see the daily work if they're working at 80% mastery. By the way, handy dandy tip, 5 times, if they get 4 right, it's mastery. They don't have to be perfect. If we want to reinforce perfectionism, we will write goals like follow all directions at all times. But that's not realistic. 80% accuracy, meaning they're going to make a mistake once in a while. I also use the word consistency. Consistency means, and this is especially good for kids with dyslexia or other learning issues where one day they've got it, the next day it's gone. It's like they've never even learned it ever. Or one day it's solid and one day they're at 40 or 50%. And then the next day they're back at 80%. And then another day they're at 100, 100, 100. Then I know that it's mastered. So 80% accuracy, 4 out of 5 times is a nice quick look at whether a kid's got something mastered. And by the end of October, okay, September, October, we're working on the 6 times tables in September and October. What if we get done with this in September? Of course, we move on and we keep reviewing the 6 times tables. I may not take this goal away because I know there's some inconsistency there and I want to make sure it's retained for a long time. So we may move on to the times 7 facts and then keep reviewing the times 6, times 5, times 4, to review all the ones we've learned so far, just to retain that knowledge. All right, the last one. An example of a not SMART goal is my child will practice reading. I want my kids to practice reading. I want to listen to them read. I want them to read independently. But this is not going to be something I can celebrate. I can look and see that my child has practiced reading one day out of a whole quarter, and I'd say, oh yeah, they practiced reading, and then walk away in 3 years and they still don't like to read. We like to do, and especially children like to do what we know well, and we know things well that we practice. So I definitely want my kids to practice reading, but I want to be able to celebrate that I'm building a habit. So, SMART goal. My child will read 1 chapter book at the 3rd grade level or higher each month until the end of the school year. That means they're probably going to read 9 or 10 chapter books, a whole month to read a chapter book at a specific grade level. Now, I'm pretty flexible. I like my students, I don't care how young or old they are, I like them to read picture books because the pictures are usually, the illustrations are usually amazing. And the language in picture books is often at a higher vocabulary level than a chapter book at a particular grade level. You could even leave this grade level part off, although I typically put it in. I want them to read so many chapters a week. I could write instead of 1 chapter book a month, I could say 1 chapter a day of 80%, which would be, they're going to read 4 chapters in a 5-day school week. So I don't know if you can see how we can adjust these little factors that are in SMART goals. All right, I would like to switch my camera here and actually show you how I would write some SMART goals. In fact, I'm getting ready. I'm working on my planning too for my school year. And so I've shared with you in previous times about Maddie. And I think I'm going to work with Maddie because we actually just finished the 6 times tables and we're moving on to the 7s, 8s, and 9s for this next quarter or semester. It doesn't matter how long it takes her. I just need to know when I'm going to look at this goal and determine if it's been mastered so I can adjust. All right, so I'm going to switch my camera here. There we go. All right. So when I write I say my child for you guys, but especially if you have multiple kids, name the child. That's their goal. Share it with them if you want. The younger they are, the less necessary that is. The older the child, share with them their goals. They'll work in collaboration with you and help cooperate to reach those goals. All right, so I'm going to write another multiplication goal for Maddie. Maddie will master the times 7 facts. And I'm going to say with 80% accuracy by, all right, we're going to start in this case, we're going to start in August. So August, September, I'm going to give her 2 months to master the 7 times tables. I don't think it's going to take her that long. No, I'm actually going to go 3 months because I usually evaluate goals by the quarter. So I'm going to say by October. By October, good enough. All right, so I have something specific. We're going to master the 7 times tables. It's measurable. I could look at daily work. I could give her drill cards or flashcards. I'm going to look at whether she's got them mastered at 80% accuracy. And the time that I'm going to look at that is October. All right, now the AR part of SMART. The A is attainable. The A means attainable. Absolutely. I know Maddie's learning. I know what we're working on, and absolutely 3 months is plenty long for us to work on the times 7 facts and get them mastered at 80%. For Maddie, that's attainable. For one of my other students who has autism and is nonverbal and is still working on the concept of putting together and taking apart for adding and subtracting, this is not attainable for that child. But for Maddie, this is well within her reach. And so the R part is it realistic? Yep, I think it's realistic too. We're probably going to get done before October, and that's fine. So I might actually want to add some more facts. In fact, when I write my learning plans, I actually do write them and I circle what, like I might write, will master times 2, 3, 4, and 5 times facts. And then as we master those goals, I'll circle them. In this case, I'd probably do times 6, 7, 8, and 9 facts. And she's already mastered 6s, so I'm going to circle 7s. Those are just little ways that I've adjusted being able to do SMART goals and still be able to move forward without having to look at them all the time every week. You certainly can look at them all the time every week. Now I want to show you one more quick way of writing a SMART goal. And that is, okay, what if my kid can't do something independently yet, but we're working on it? So here's an example of a kid who's just starting to work on multiplication facts, they don't quite have the concept down, but we're going to start working on them anyway. I'm going to write down here, given, and it depends on the manipulatives. I could just write math manipulatives. Math manipulatives are little trinket things like counters or place value blocks or teddy bears. They're things that I can move around. I can manipulate them with my hands. So given math manipulatives, and you can even get more specific than that. If your kid loves counting teddy bears, right, given teddy bear counters, that would be fine. My child will. And I want them to build groups of 2. And I could keep it separate, but because I'm working per quarter, I'm going to say and 5. They've already mastered 10s. We're going to work on 2s and 5s. So they're going to build groups of 5 with math manipulatives with 80% consistency. Now, this is important because I've had a student who could build groups, but they had difficulty building groups with the same numbers in them. So the kid I'm thinking about could build groups of 2, but when it came to building groups of 5, sometimes the groups would have 3, sometimes they'd have 4, sometimes they'd have 5. And I wanted to reinforce that we were doing groups that had the same amount every time. So I was looking at consistency. Consistency means 4 days out of 5 school days in a school week. So rather than an 80% accuracy, I wanted to know, can they do it every day that I ask them? Can they do it frequently enough that it's consistent and it's a skill that's now been mastered, not just in accuracy, but can they do it all the time? Now, I want without assistance on this because we've already established that when I'm helping, this child can build groups of 2 and 5. By the way, this goes back to one-on-one correspondence and counting skills and the concept of grouping. So I know that we're still working on those skills also. There's several foundational math skills that underlie this particular goal. I want to know that they can do it without me helping. And I want to do this, I'm going to put this by the end of the school year because this is such a foundational concept. We can still work on rote memory of facts, but this is a conceptual skill. So I'm going to put this by end of school year. Now, am I going to evaluate it only at the end of school? No, I look at my learning plans quarterly. I don't have to do a report card. It's not required in my state, but I want to know that we're making progress on this. If we're not making progress, then I need to change something that I do. Maybe we need to look at drawing lines or using Play-Doh or doing something else where we're actually reinforcing that idea of grouping and accuracy in one-on-one correspondence and counting. All right, I hope that's helped. How many goals do you need to write? 1 for each area that you're working on is plenty. So if you're doing phonics, instead of saying, I want to write a goal about we'll master all the phonics rules, that's not specific and it's not realistic. But if you write, my child will be able to read 3-letter words with short vowels, much more specific. Does it have to be perfect? 80 or 90% mastery. That's good enough. then move on. Add the next little rule, little step, little step. All right, I hope that's been helpful. If you need to, send me a message, ask a question. I'll be happy to help you. If you're trying to write your goals and you're struggling with it, again, send me a message. I'll help you make your goals more specific and reachable and attainable. And later in this course, I hope to share with you my template that I use for writing some of my goals. Again, each and every kid, I write specific goals for them. I just base it off of some standardized kinds of goals that are used, and then I tweak them for that particular child. So I hope near the end of the course, look for a download that has my template of learning goals that I use for some of my kids. All right. Well, I'll see you in the next lesson, and happy writing goals. Bye.